Hi, I've created a React Native application using the SQLite database. This application demonstrates using SQLite to reduce the need to maintain complex React state. The database is used as the single source of truth, and user interface elements are generated via live queries whenever the data changes. Let's launch the application in the iOS emulator. When the application launches, we'll be met with a splash screen, and when the database is available, we'll see our user interface. We see here a series of emoji fruit buttons. We can scroll through all the buttons, and when we click on a button, a confetti effect is made. The more we click, the more confetti we see. We can scroll back to the top, and we can make a few more clicks. Let's close and rerun the application. And we'll see upon launch that the clicks that we made before have been durable between application sessions. We can add a few more clicks, and when we're done, we can hit the delete clicks button, and all the click counts will be reset to 0. Now let's take a look at the code. In app TSX, we create a use drizzle hook. Drizzle is a library that allows writing type-safe SQL queries through a query builder interface. Inside this hook, we'll call the use SQLite context hook to get a reference to the SQLite database. And we'll use that and wrap it in a drizzle query builder, and we'll memoize that. In the app component, we see the SQLite provider that provides these references to the SQLite database used by the hook. And we specify here the database name for our database, and this onInit property is set to call the migrate function. Let's take a look at the migrate function. In migrate, we load from the file system an SQL migrations file. Let's take a look at that file. In 01 initialize SQL, we have a table definition for the fruit table with an ID column, which is to store the emoji text, and an @ column, which is the date at which the entry was made in the table. In the clicks table, we have an ID, which is used to store a UUID to serve as a unique identifier for each click. We have the on column, which is a reference to the fruit ID column. And we have also an @ column to store the date at which the click was made. Finally, in this migrations file, we have an insert into the fruit table for ID for all the fruit emojis that we want. The last line, on conflict do nothing, means that this migration can run every time the application loads, and there'll be no conflict if the emoji fruits are already present in the fruit table. Let's return to app TSX. And in app TSX, we'll continue After we get our reference to the Drizzle query builder, we'll see the few pieces of state that we have in this React application. We have confettis and set confettis to manage an array of the fruit emojis that we want to produce confetti for. We have a remove confetti function which manages that array. We have tick and set tick. This will be used as a signal to indicate to the user interface that the data in the clicks table has changed and it's time to render new click count text. And finally, we have click counts and set click counts, and that will be used to hold the results of our click count query from the database. In a use effect, we call the Drizzle query builder, and we select from the fruit table the fruit ID and an aggregate count on click ID for all clicks. From fruit, we left outer join on click, where fruit ID is equal to click on. We group by fruit ID and we order by fruit ID. And this becomes a result that includes every emoji from the fruit table and 0 or an aggregate click count for all the clicks that have been made on each emoji. At the bottom of this use effect, we have a reference to tick, and whenever tick is incremented, it will trigger this use effect to run again, and this last line here in the use effect, set clicks count to our click count result, will update the state, and we'll see how that's used in a bit. There's another use effect here when click counts is available and it has some length, we hide the splash screen so that we can display our user interface. This onClick function uses the Drizzle query builder to insert into the click for a unique UUID v4 for the ID and the emoji on which the onClick function was called. Inside this function, we call set tick and we increment it by 1. We also call set confettis, and for the emoji that we're interested in, we add it to the confetti array. The delete click function is also using the Drizzle query builder to delete all the clicks from the table. And this is the function that is used on the delete clicks button. In the return, we return our user interface. And the interesting part here is that the results of our query, as stored in click counts, is iterated over. And for every ID and count, we add a touchable opacity that creates a button in our user interface. And for our button text, we display the emoji ID and the click count. And below those emoji buttons, we have the delete clicks button with its text delete clicks. And that is set to call the delete clicks function. And we see here returning to the emoji buttons that the on-click action is called for the emoji which relates to that button. Below these items in the user interface, we have an iteration over the confettis for a confetti explosion component. And when that confetti is complete, we call the function that manages the removal of that particular emoji from the confetti array. There is an important piece of configuration in our application for our splash screen. We configure that in app.json, and we indicate the location and assets where our splash screen is located. And finally, in metro config.js, we have an important line of configuration that indicates that files with the SQL extension and assets should be bundled into the application payload. This concludes the demonstration of this React Native application. I hope that you found it useful. A link to the source code is available in the video description.